Peter Akerley is the president and CEO of Erdene Resource Development Corp, and we're here to discuss exactly what the company is focused on right now, projects that they're currently working on, and future projects and ideas that are in the pipeline. Peter, very glad to host you here on Kitco Mining. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. It's an exciting time for our company and look forward to discussing it today.
Peter, give us an overview of Erdene Resource Development. What is your mission, your philosophy, and tell us about your development projects around the world.
Certainly. So Erdene Resource Development is a TSX-listed company with a dual listing on the Mongolian Stock Exchange. We're focused on one of the world's great gold belts that traverses the southern part of Mongolia, the Central Asian Orogenic Belt. And it's been our focus for the better part of a decade. We really took an approach of scientific, methodical exploration over that period, and it's led to some tremendous discoveries, open pitable, high-grade gold discoveries, as well as copper prospects. We have begun the process of taking the first of those towards development, and over the span of the last couple of years have had tremendous success identifying adjacent deposits. And with the size of this, the scale of this, a new district, we decided that it was the right time to seek out a new partner. And we announced just last week a partnership, a strategic alliance with Mongolia's largest publicly listed miner, with a parent company that provides all of the attributes you'd want to fully develop a new minerals district. Okay.
Why specifically Mongolia? I mean, I know the region has a rich history of having been mined, a lot of resources dating back to antiquity. Genghis Khan, the Genghis Khan days, we've seen resources being excavated there. But back in the modern day, I mean, there's a lot of other places around the world that you could have explored. Why Mongolia?
So, David, I arrived in Mongolia in 1997, just as it was coming out from the socialist period. And I'd worked prior to that throughout Southeast Asia and South America and the Americas. And what I witnessed when I arrived in Mongolia was really second to none. One of the world's great gold and copper belts. It's anchored by 100 million ounce type deposits. And the area that I have my eye on in the southern part of the country had seen virtually no modern exploration. So that was the first thing. You had a country opening up to foreign investment for the first time, welcoming in that foreign investment. And it was next door to the largest growing economy globally, which will continue. So to set your eyes on base metal deposits, gold, copper deposits, this seemed like the best place to do it. And I've really focused my career since that time on the Mongolia region.
All right. And tell us about some of your recent strategic alliances, Peter.
So on January 10th, we announced a strategic alliance with a company called Mongolian Mining Corporation. Mongolian Mining Corporation operates two mines in the South Gobi. They employ about 2,000 people. They have a very large processing plant for coking coal being sold into China, massive logistics, transportation experience, bringing coal in across the border into China. And they have a parent company that controls about 40% of their Hong Kong listed entity, which has engineering, construction, utility businesses that when you think about that long-term vision of developing a new mining district, they bring all of that. When you look at our expertise, really on the exploration side, this alignment of interests allows us to focus on what we've been very good at, but bring in a party that brings dollars. They're introducing 40 million US into our subco. They bring operating and construction experience, and they bring national strength, which by itself reduces the jurisdictional risk that you often see associated with developing countries in the eyes of investors. So they bring all those things we needed and wanted, and the two together bring together some great strengths. I guess 1 + 1 = 3 in this case, and really allows us to move forward with that initial development towards cash flow, but continue our exploration.
Okay, some of the challenges of operating in Mongolia, I would imagine, would be compared to, let's say, some place like Nevada or Utah, where the infrastructure is slightly more developed. If an investor were to say to you, Peter, the operating costs of operating in a region that's more remote like Mongolia would be higher, how would you respond?
Well, when I first arrived in Mongolia, and up until about 10 or 15 years ago, you could say that about the South Gobi, infrastructurally challenged, limited utilities. Today, we're 200 kilometers from a massive mining district. We're in a region that has 40,000 employees in the mining industry. You have China pushing rail and blacktop highways into the region. So it's not indifferent from being 200 kilometers north of Timmins today versus what it was when I arrived, which was 1,000 kilometers from the nearest rail or road. So things have changed exponentially over the period I've been there. And it's not indifferent from other mining regions that you'd look at in northern Canada. But I would say that, it is still relatively remote, 200 kilometers from the nearest power and highways. But that's the strength that our partner brings. When they went into the region, they now have their two mines. There was 200 people in a local town, and they've brought the mines. They've developed the resources, water resources, brought in the power. So they've been through this before, and they have that experience. They managed $1.5 billion U.S. investment to develop the mining district they're now in, which is about 500 kilometers east of us. But that's what they look to be able to replicate with that experience they've developed there in our district. They also have a very young workforce. When they started that a decade ago, they brought on young professional Mongolians who were in their early to mid 20s. So today you're looking at an experienced workforce that can transfer that skill set into Bayan Khundii and apply that to the development of our first mine, which I expect will be one of many.
Okay. Peter, give us an overview of the macro landscape for the junior mining sector. As you know, tough year for base metals and gold and silver. People are saying that perhaps 2023 is a year for recovery for juniors, in not just in terms of prices, but also in terms of production volume. Well, not drilling, and if you're a producer, production volume. People are saying perhaps 2023 is a rebound year for M&A activity and capital redeployment. How are you feeling?
Well, I think when you look at the key commodities, certainly the ones that we're focused on, gold and copper and molybdenum, that will underpin a stronger market for funding of the junior miners and developers as we move through 2023. I do think we're coming out of a period where retail investors and institutional investors have had a very tough time making money in our sector. So you need to see some successes to bring that interest back. Commodities prices will only take us so far, but some successful exploration stories would be helpful. And I think we're one of those. With the partnership we've now struck and the fertility of the region we're in, I think we can deliver some exceptional discoveries and returns for investors, and hopefully that'll help lead the sector.
Okay. Now, let's go over some of your equity investors. Now you've joined forces with Eric Sprott and the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development. Tell us about why these partnerships are important to your current corporate profile.
Well, it's always a great benefit to have Mr. Sprott involved. As you're well aware, he follows some of the best stories in the sector, and to have him give us that vote of confidence and continue to support us in our path forward is very beneficial in the eyes of other investors. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development is the largest foreign investor in Mongolia, with over 2 billion euros invested, involved in a number of different mining projects and with significant relationships at the government level. So those two together bring different strengths, but to be sitting there holding close to 30% of our shareholder base. And when you add in directors, some of the other institutions involved with us and some of the close high net worth retail, we're sitting on a register that's controlled by about 10 supportive groups that hold close to 70% of the stock. So it's a very strong shareholder register.
Okay. Peter, tell us about some of your future endeavors and projects that you have in the pipeline. What can we expect in terms of expansion or perhaps future strategic partnerships that you're looking into?
Sure. Well, through this deal, we end up with sort of three silos, if you will. We have the gold projects in a subsidiary that we control 50% of, but is now fully funded to move forward with over 50 million Canadian funding coming in through this deal. We have the 5% NSR that's on all core projects in this new mining district that is going to create significant value. And then we have a 100% owned subsidiary with a very large molybdenum copper project with significant copper porphyry potential. So those are kind of the three silos. The immediate focus will be on getting the gold project at Bayan Khundii, where we have a very high grade open pit shovel ready, moving that towards production, 3.5 gram head grade, which is in the top decile of open pits globally. We'll focus on getting that move towards production while continuing to explore some of the other exciting high-grade near-surface deposits there, but also begin to get some work going on the ground on the Zuunmaad molybdenum copper project. We've had some great copper intersections there. We have a large molybdenum deposit, and we'll begin to bring that back to life here as we see copper prices now reaching all-time highs in the past couple of weeks.
Okay. Peter, tell us about the construction schedule that you've laid out.
Sure. So we delivered a feasibility study back in 2020 that provided a very robust economic model based on about 65,000 ounces per year. We're now intending to upgrade that to 75 to 80,000 ounces a year and going through the process of updating our feasibility study, which also will bring forward different CapEx and OpEx given the inflationary period we've been under. That will take place during the first half of this year. At the same time, we'll begin our non-process infrastructure early construction works efforts on the ground at Bayan Khundii so that we can be hitting stride with a full construction decision later this year and moving into construction of that 600,000 ton per annum CIP plant towards the end of this year to reach full construction at the end of 2024 and first gold at year end, just moving into 2025.
Okay. Finally, I'd like to ask you about molybdenum. It's not a mineral that we cover extensively here on Kitco, so I'm interested in learning more, as is probably our audience. Give us some of the industrial properties and usages of this metal.
So molybdenum is used as a strengthening agent in stainless steel. The largest producer of stainless steel is China, and therefore the largest consumers of molybdenum. We saw just in the last month or so, Zijin, one of the publicly listed but state-funded entities in China, acquire a molybdenum asset for about 800 million US in China. So things are starting to pick up on that front. You're seeing the two large mines in China, Jinducheng and China Moly, begin to decrease in their head grades. They're long life mines, so there is a interest now in seeking new supply. And I think Zuunmaad, just 200 kilometers from the Chinese border and rail, is in a very strong position to be one of those next development projects as we look towards the future. The Mongolian government announced in January of last year that they would be looking to build rail line within about 30 kilometers of the Zuunmaad project, which will add significantly to the value. We currently have about 400 million pounds of molybdenum, and it's trading close to $40 US as we speak, and equivalent amounts of copper. So there's a massive value in the ground there that now is looking very strongly economic at current prices, and we'll begin to refocus our efforts on that as we look towards the coming months.
Now, finally, Peter, tell us a bit about your professional background. I think investors would like to know a little bit about you and the management team.
Certainly. I jumped into the international exploration field after graduating here in Eastern Canada in 1988 and immediately moved into the international arena, worked in Guyana, South America, in the Philippines, in Mexico, and found myself in the late 90s, as I mentioned, in Mongolia as a project manager for the first ever Western funded exploration program. So 97 through 99, we carried out the largest regional exploration program. We had Barrick as a joint venture partner, and it was just a fantastic country 101 course for me to get to know the geology of a belt that most Western explorers had not experienced. And as I said at the outset, I was able to witness an opportunity to explore one of these great gold belts and set my mind to that. The 99 to 2001 period was a pretty dark period for raising money in our sector, but in 2001, on the heels of the deep holes at Hugo at Oyu Tolgoi, it caught the attention of investors and allowed us to launch this company. So from 2003-4 right through until today, we've been the most consistent, focused explorer in the Mongolia region, which has led to the successes we just discussed.
Peter, I appreciate your appearance on Kitco Mining. Thank you for your contribution to our channel, and thank you for explaining to us what Erdene resource development is all about. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, David.
And thank you for watching. I'm David Lin.